Hi, David here, CEO and founder of the Freedom Founders Mastermind community. In our group, in the Freedom Founders community, we focus a lot on 5 freedoms. The first one is financial freedom, the next one is time freedom, then relationship freedom, then health freedom, and then purpose, significance, meaning, and impact. Starting with the base of that pyramid at financial freedom, we focus on what I call the freedom number. Now, the freedom number is something that I coined the term some years after I'd actually found my freedom number. I didn't know what it was at that time, but I realized looking back in my life that developing and coming up with what that freedom number is was really the entire advent of my being able to give myself, my logical, rational brain, the ability to leave my dental practice, to sell it when I was in my 40s and have that opportunity to spend time with my daughter. That's a big, big decision to make. It's probably not the decision you're having to make in your life right now. You're trying to figure out, well, do I have enough? What is my game plan to exit my business, my practice, and have enough of a nest egg to go forward with? That was the whole key back in my earlier years into determining how and could I feasibly make this change. I wanted emotionally to be with my daughter. I'd been splitting too much time over many years through her illnesses with leukemia, epileptic seizures, and then finally a liver transplant. And really, I was at a point where I had to do something different, but I had to also be very much of a responsible person. You can't just abdicate and leave those duties as well. When I was in the hospital with my daughter after she had her liver transplant some 20 years ago, I was thinking through this as she was sleeping, just thinking through my thoughts, where I was in my life and really what was the most important to me. And yes, it was important to be a dentist. It was important to be a good business owner, take care of patients, take care of staff, but also be a good father, a good spouse. And doing all those things at the same time was very, very difficult. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I calculated what I had built up, both in my real estate operations. And again, I'm talking about a guy who had just been doing it with single family houses for, at that time, about 2 decades. Compounding effect of acquiring assets and paying down the debt. The tenants paid down most of the debt. I added to it, snowballed down the debt on a number of houses, just picking up houses over the years and then paying them down, paying them down. I didn't have all the houses paid down at that time when Jenna was in the hospital, but I had a significant number paid down or paid off. And I'd really never taken an accounting of how much of that, quote, passive, and again, it's not entirely passive, but how much of that passive income was coming in where I didn't have to go to work anymore to make that money off of the rental income, the net rental income. I'd never done that accounting before. Why? Well, because you don't do it when you have active income. My whole point to you, if you're listening today, is what you've got to figure out, what I know is in your mind, you just maybe don't know that yet, is when you're making decisions about how can you exit, should you do it this way or that way, when should you do it, you're always thinking about having the most amount of capital you can, and then you go, well, how much is that? The problem for the vast majority is they've never been instructed, never learned how to turn their nest egg, their investment equity, their practice sale equity into replacement income, cash flow. It's all about replacement income. It's all about cash flow. Yes, growing net worth is important, and you can do that over the years while you're in active income, but when it comes time to stop your active income, unless you're going to use the depletion theory of the traditional model, is just to start chopping down your assets, which is not my game plan at all in life. I want to maintain the golden goose, that is my assets, and have that spitting out those eggs. I don't want to start chopping the goose down over time and get down to the last little bit of the goose and hope that it doesn't run out. That's not the way to go. Tangible assets, hard assets that produce income because somebody's using those assets. Real estate's the best example I have, whether that's commercial real estate or single family real estate, but that's the best asset I know to do this with. And so when I made that accounting back in the day when my daughter was in the hospital, I realized I had enough coming in. Plus, if I sold my practice after taxes, I could take that same equity because I had experience doing this. I had a network. I could put that money to work in places I knew would give me that sustainable, predictable income. Doing that logistical, rational thinking in my brain on the back of a scrap piece of paper gave me the impetus to go ahead and make the decision to sell my practice. And sell it I did. thinking that I would take a year, 18 months off just to spend time with my daughter after her liver transplant. I never went back. Why? The space, the margin that I was given at that time in my life because of my daughter's illness, not because I decided to do it for myself, it was for my daughter. But that additional space, the time margin, not having to deal with the practice, the business aspects of a practice anymore, gave me the margin to be more creative. And it gave me the space to evolve into, well, what I do today. And that's help other doctors and dentists with their freedom goals and the tangible assets that we invest in, the alternative space, rather than relying on that old traditional model of uncertainty. Uncertainty is not what's going to do it for you. You've got to have a plan because you're like me. You're a logical, rational thinker, and you're not going to just abdicate foolishness to the side. That's why so many people get stuck when they're trying to figure out, do I sell my practice? How do I sell my practice? Can I sell my practice? What's going to happen? We're in an environment today of economic volatility like we've never seen before. Inflation is up. Inflation is going to stay there. It's going to be more difficult to navigate forward. It's an opportunity for you, though, to understand how to do it so you're not left in the dust like, unfortunately, the majority will be. It's up to you. I always say just focus on your freedom and figure out a game plan if you don't have one already. It's going to be very, very important that you work on this. Not tomorrow, not next year. Start doing it now.